can be a dark, lonely place. It's easy to lose your way. The light from your dreams becomes harder to chase. The words won't come, you don't know what to say. When we come together, the storms we can weather. Don't let go of me, we'll get through this, you'll see. Like pictures from the past, we were meant to last. There's nothing we can't do when we come together. United we stand, divided we fall. This is the battle cry that unites us all. Come with me, let's show what we can do. We can't do it without you.
Hey everybody, welcome in, welcome in, welcome to Conversations with Christy. We are back with our amazing friend and dear, dear, sweet kindred soul of the channel, Karena. Karena, we have 212 subscribers, so more than we ended last year with. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody, those new subscribers, who you are, where we can find you, kind of why we love you so much. I mean, other than being a beautiful soul and human.
So kind. And I just had to say, Christy, as the intro song was playing today, I was just hit by it in such a new way. And it felt so resonant with the sun in Aquarius this season, which we're going to be talking about today. And Pluto is in Aquarius now. So when the sun goes through Aquarius, it's going to be hitting Pluto now. Every Aquarius season for the next 20 years, and just really thinking about that community, that united we stand, divided we fall. We can do more together than we can alone. And that this really is a time, Aquarius is all about the community and the bringing together of people and supporting each other. And, I just see your channel as such a beautiful way to do that. And your Aquarius energy is coming in strong at a time when the world needs Aquarius community supportive energy. So I just wanted to say that really quickly. And welcome to our new subscribers. If you haven't already grown to love Christy, you certainly will. And I absolutely adore Christy, all of the beautiful energy Christy brings to this channel, and all of the deep, real, philosophical conversations we get into, all of the esoteric, and explore some pretty tricky topics. And I just appreciate having a space to do that so much. So if people want to find me other places after they listen to this conversation, I have a website, magicofthemoonastrology.com, and I offer astrology and tarot readings there. I also have a blog on Substack, so you can go to substack.com and search for Magic of the Moon Astrology. I post there typically once a week to basically talk about the upcoming astrology of the week, what kinds of energy we can anticipate and how to best use that energy. And then I do have a YouTube channel, again, surprise, surprise, Magic of the Moon Astrology. But I do not post videos as frequently as you do, Christy. So I basically save it for when there are those big astrological events that must be talked about so we can all be prepared. So that is where you can find me. And I'm just so grateful to be part of this community, and so grateful to you, Christy, for spearheading this and kind of being the fearless leader here who's not afraid to tackle the really, challenging topics. Nothing in the esoteric space is easy. There's no equation with a right answer at the end. It's very deep. It requires a lot of complex thought. And that's why we all show up for this.
Right. Well, and we have to talk about those things too, I mean, at some point you've got to get past the crystals and the the Reiki and the tarot, and you've got to get to those deeper things of, why we do what we do and untangle who we are and look at those things. And I've learned a lot even in the past year. And I have really, honestly, I learned a lot more about astrology from you listening to our tarot class. Oh, by the way, guys, the air story, which is the Aquarius, the air signs, it dropped today. So if you are interested in that, you are not too late. Head over to Magic of the Moon Astrology. You can do that. You can buy just individual classes, or there's packages, there's payment options. So, if that is your thing and you want to learn from both of us, head on over. We'll help you out. I'm super excited. But it is, and I'm sure I was thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty sure Karena, like, this wasn't accidental. Karena probably was
You
like,
mean
oh,
we
if we start
dropped
on
the
this day.
Swords Air story on as we had Aquarius season? Well,
Right. Oh, but one of the, like, some of the things we're going to be talking about, and Karina, you and I have kind of talked about this, and oh, guys, I got to tell you, all right, so anything that Karina recommends to me, I just instantly do. I don't even second guess it.
I
So,
mean,
no, seriously. Like, I mean, if you told me to jump off of a bridge, I'd probably be like,
good,
but
good,
really,
good,
like,
good. Yes, please.
but
Second guess.
the, the other thing I know is she would never tell me to do that. So, she sent me a message and she's like, do you listen to podcasts? And if you do, you need to listen to this podcast called the Telepathy Tapes. And I was like on it, and I'm on my phone. And guys, this is amazing. So we're actually we're gonna listen to this. We're gonna do a reaction video. We're gonna bring Ben on for the reaction. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna do some stories around, like, some discussions around, like, God, and how do you learn lessons from God or the universe, however that is from you. Like, what does that look like? And that's the Coco story that I keep talking about, like, and the example was, you can have that Hershey's Cocoa and that it's not really great for you, but you can put it in different packages and you still get it. And you're like, wait, and you kind of have to learn. So we're going to talk about that with Karina. We're going to do, I'm going to call it the math show, but we're going to get into all of the math of the astrology. And I want to do something around the North and South nodes because I love those. But we're also going to continue to talk about archetypes and sacred contracts and what all of these things are. And guys, it has helped me so much understanding those things, archetypal energy, sacred contracts, how the universe really speaks to me personally, but to us as a whole. And it's helped me to be more forgiving, more understanding, more compassionate, and there's a lot there. So I'm very excited to get into that a little bit later, because all of that stuff is coming. So um, you know, get ready for that. But I am excited. I kind of prepared everybody this morning on the morning tarot. I was like, okay, this is kind of what Aquarius season is like. It's the one thing that I can talk on knowledgeably when it comes to astrology. I'm like, I know
There's more
this.
than one thing, but I would say here, as our resident sun in Aquarius, you are pretty primed to talk about this. Um, and it's so interesting because I'm just seeing so much Aquarius resonance in the world right now. And I
Yeah.
really feel like this is a combination of being in the age of Aquarius and Pluto entering Aquarius.
Mhm.
And now,
Mhm.
this is the first time the sun is moving through Aquarius since Pluto has moved into Aquarius full time. No more going back into Capricorn. So there's
Right.
really, every time now for the next 20 years, when we talk about the sun in Aquarius, we're talking about the sun with Pluto, because they are going
Mhm.
to be sharing a sign during Aquarius season for the next 20 years. And even a lot of the themes, you mentioned, Christy, the things we'll be talking about, the telepathy tapes,
Mhm.
Even the concept of something like telepathy, kind of a transformation in non-physically explained communication, that is very Aquarian, very,
Mhm.
airy, um,
Right.
not something our three-dimensional brains can naturally connect to. And so I think, an Aquarius season started already.
Mhm.
The sun went into Aquarius yesterday. And I feel these themes in
Mhm.
day-to-day life already. So
Yeah.
Aquarius, there's so much about Aquarius that is about community. It's about society. It's
Mhm.
about looking forward. Aquarius is never looking backward. There's value to looking backward. Aquarius is not a backward looker, though. Aquarius is
Mhm.
always pushing forward. What's on the horizon? I must go towards the horizon. I can't
Right.
stop, won't stop, must go towards the horizon. And
Right.
we see that happening in so many kind of airy ways with Aquarius as an air sign. We certainly see that in the tech space right now. Everybody, I'm
Mhm.
sure, has heard a lot about AI and these big
Mhm.
questions about how is it going to disrupt our lives, and what is it going to be used for, and what will regulation on it look like, and all
Yeah.
kinds of giant questions. And we don't know exactly what's happening there, but certainly the tech companies are pushing forward towards the horizon with AI.
Mhm.
And we're seeing
Mhm.
things like more interest in, esoteric things. Again,
Mhm.
telepathy being a great example of taking, all of the air signs are very human oriented signs. And so we're taking something very human,
Mhm.
something like communication, and looking at how else might we do this,
Yeah.
beyond just speaking with our vocal cords. And so, yeah, I'm seeing so much of a push towards forward on multiple fronts. So that is a big theme of Aquarius season this year. And this is going to continue to be a big theme of Aquarius seasons for the next 20 years, as the
Mhm.
Sun and Pluto kind of negotiate what transformations need to happen in order to
Mhm.
move us most productively forward toward the horizon.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, with that as a kind of backdrop, um, okay, so because Pluto is still in the very early degrees of Aquarius, as soon as the sun enters Aquarius, it's basically right on top of Pluto. So we are
Mhm.
right on top of a Sun Pluto conjunction today. And
Uh-huh.
the sun conjoins Pluto once a year as it goes around the zodiac. But this is the first time the sun is meeting Pluto since Pluto has moved to Aquarius for the final time. Um, and so the themes that come up for us over these next few days will be kind of indicative of some bigger, longer themes over the course of the year
Mhm.
until we hit Aquarius season again. And Pluto really is
Mhm.
about power dynamics and transformation that needs to happen to move towards greater equality. Um, if there are imbalances in society, um, you know, Pluto in Aquarius is, and the sun moving on top of that is going to make those much more obvious. But notice
Mhm.
what comes up for each of us. We all have our part to play in um, the bigger scheme of, helping move our souls and, our communities forward,
Mhm.
spiritually and esoterically. So, each person, be aware of what is coming up for you. What are you noticing over these few days? Um, Whatever you're noticing and thinking, that really feels like it should change. Great.
Mhm.
Aquarius is all about change. Change is always needed to push towards that distant horizon. And whatever you're noticing now, you may be a vehicle for that change to move forward.
Mhm.
So look at where the universe is pointing you over these next few days. We are in a very transformational season right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and I think anyone who has listened to previous forecasts, the sun in Capricorn, the sun in Sagittarius, we've been doing this for a while now, probably 6 or 8
Right,
months.
right.
Um, you know, what I'm talking about now is bigger picture than I would typically talk
Mhm.
about in a monthly forecast. But
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
because these are themes, overarching themes that we're going to keep coming back to again and again.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
whereas the energy of some of the other months is a little more concrete, like, okay, we're going to have to deal with some stuff. These couple of days are going to be really tricky here. This is going to be a really good day to start creative projects. This is going to be a really good day for work. There is still that this month, but there are some bigger picture forces at
Mhm.
play. And I wouldn't want anyone to lose sight of the forest, focusing only on individual days this month, because this is the start of something big and special.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it sounds like it would be a good time to get out your journals
Out your
and write down
journal.
what's coming up for you. Because if this is going to be a reoccurring theme, you might not remember it. I mean, we all always remember the really big things, but when it comes down to those little things, and sometimes the biggest change is made in the littlest ways.
So
And,
true.
like, so it might not be this huge like call to save the world, but it might be just a small change that you can do. Um, and interesting enough, I didn't know exactly when the sun went into Aquarius. Yesterday, guys, I had such a rough day. I was so depressed. I like cried all day. Like, and it's okay. It just that was the energy of
You were
yesterday.
feeling
And
it.
I was
Yeah.
like, wow. And it really hit me. So Karena, I told everybody today to get their birth charts if they had it and have it close by and set it down and get their journals and their pencils and write it down, but see where Aquarius was in their chart and see where Pluto's at in their chart. That way, as we're talking about these things, you guys can see how it might affect you personally. But as an Aquarius, and as the sun is doing its thing and Pluto is doing its thing, guys, it has been a day. It was a day yesterday. And it's fine. We all have those days, right? I was just really glad I was off yesterday because
Mm,
I don't know that I probably would have just been like, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like, because it really, there were a lot of things that came up. And with the transformational energy of Pluto, what's coming up for me is really intimate things like family transformation and
mm,
children transformation and job transformation, meaning like Michael, and even relationship transformation. So, and when all of it comes up at once, you're just like, what do I do? you know
yeah.
so it really is. And I think, I mean, always spiritual journal, but especially, when it's these bigger things like, Pluto in Aquarius, you're gonna feel that,
Yeah.
I think. So, and this is the first time any of us has felt it, so
Yes.
none of us know what's going
Yes.
on. And so, if you write it down, then you can look back, and in 5 years you'll be like, okay, this is how this is going
Yeah.
to affect me. you know right
Oh,
now
for
none of us know.
sure. And I
It's
think,
our first rodeo.
yeah, I so agree with that, Christy. And, I think one thing that's really important with the journaling too is that because Pluto stays in the same sign for such a long time, we tend to
Hmm.
forget that isn't just normal, that isn't just life. And so it's
Yeah.
really helpful to record our experiences towards the beginning of something so we can look back
Hmm.
and say, oh, the energy wasn't always this way. I remember feeling it shift. And then it
Yeah.
also kind of gives us a sense of time. Like, okay,
Hmm.
I've been doing this for 5 years. I've got 15 years. Like it starts we start to feel our place in an era
Mhm.
rather than just
Yeah.
feel like, oh, this is just the world. This is just the way it always has been and always will be. It's not. But Pluto tricks us into thinking of that because 20 years is a
Right.
long time for all of us
Yeah.
in our lifespans.
Yeah.
It's about a quarter of, our average lifespan.
Right.
So, yeah, I love your call outs. Please, people, journal, journal, journal. Um, and so as we have this, sun moving on top of Pluto, again, journal, notice what's coming up for you. This is probably going to be a recurring theme for at least the next year in some form, probably with less intensity over the next 20
Mhm.
years as we continue
Mhm.
digging deeper and uncovering layers, which Pluto loves to do. Here's the outer layer of the onion and the next layer and the next layer and the next
Right.
layer. And that is how you get to the root of something is you peel it
Mhm.
back layer, you understand each layer, then you move on to the next one. That's a long process. Pluto needs to stay in a sign for 20 years because it takes that long to really get down to
Right.
the root of things.
Right.
Um,
Right.
then on the 27th, so in a week, Mercury goes from Capricorn to Aquarius and again instantly moves on top of Pluto. So this is what we get this year, everybody. As soon as a planet moves into Aquarius, it's right on top of Pluto. Welcome to Pluto in Aquarius. Um, and if we think about, the sun being in Aquarius, so that's the backdrop. This is our sun in Aquarius season. With Mercury
Mhm.
moving in, Mercury is all about our perspective on different cultures, our communication, us articulating our perspective and accepting and integrating other people's perspective. So
Mhm.
there is pretty instantaneously as Mercury enters Aquarius, a depth and intensity to that
Mhm.
that will feel a little bit abnormal.
Right.
Again, because we aren't used to Pluto in Aquarius yet.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
this might look like, we have some conversations with people and some topics unexpectedly touch some big nerves, either within us
Right.
or within others. And we find ourselves asking, why was I so touchy about that? Or why was that other person? Why did they get so quickly offended and upset with me over that? And
Mhm.
again, notice these themes because some of these will be almost like, yeah, we're hitting the nerve. And then over the next multiple years, we'll be kind of digging deeper to understand more about ourselves and others. And yeah, what there may be layers and layers of conditioning over the years, traumas, that have led to certain responses. And we're going to start to see some of that and then be able to unpack it over the next multiple years. So again, on the 27th, when Mercury moves in on top of Pluto in Aquarius, it's a preview. It is a preview
Mhm.
of sort of, yeah, these are areas of maybe unhealed trauma that maybe you weren't even aware of, or you knew they existed, but you didn't know they were so intense, so deep. Um, so
Yes.
a lot of energy in this first week of Aquarius season. We're starting off with a bang. Um, Aquarius
Now,
style.
right, right. Now, I have a question. So, since Aquarius is very swordsy, and we're not necessarily always great at delivering the message,
No.
these, right, shocker, oh, shock and horror. Um, these could be extra sharp, right? I mean, these could really come off as like, not just like, oh, bless your heart, but like, what'd
Yes.
you say to me?
Yes.
Like, so I want you guys to prepare for that too, because and again, keep in mind with Aquarius, like we talked about this morning, it's not always intentional. Like, it sounds good in our
Mm.
heads, it makes sense in our heads, but this is one of those things, and especially with Mercury being that communication, and Pluto being the underworld, and Aquarius being what it is. It's not exactly, shall I say, a lovey way to communicate. I mean, this might be get right with yourself,
Yeah.
and there's some of that. So even I think stepping back and breathing for a moment and just thinking, what's the best way for me to deliver this message or to say this? One of my favorite things, and of course, I mean, he's not the first to say it, but I love Simon Sinek. But one of the things that he said was, you don't have to respond right away. Like,
Mm.
if somebody says something, like he uses the example, he went to go see his friends play and it really wasn't that great. And he's like, it was a wonderful production. And then a few days later, when he had a chance to gather his thoughts and she came back and said, well, what did you really think about it? Then he was able to share those, but he didn't do it in the moment. So I want to encourage you to, you don't have to say everything in the moment. And, like it might be sharp just because it is Aquarius. Like it's not really gonna, there's not a lot of soft, lovey, cushy, like there's just not a lot of soft, lovey, cushy things about a sword, but sometimes we need that, right? I mean, that can be beneficial when things come up for us. Now, it doesn't mean it can't be hurtful, and we certainly don't want anyone to get hurt, but I just kind of wanted to bring that up too as a, like, be mindful. Because
Yeah,
it.
I love that. And you're kind of pulling on the bigger themes there that Aquarius prioritizes truth over feelings.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so Aquarius is always going to want to speak its truth, even if that hurts some feelings. Um,
Yeah.
which I think, again, there is a strong value to that. You aren't left wondering what was left unsaid or what the person really thought. It's like, no, you know what
Right,
they thought.
right,
They,
right.
they told you. They pulled no punches. They spared no feelings. Um, and there is a lot of value in that. But then frequently, by prioritizing only the truth, people's defense mechanisms get activated and then the message gets lost, the very
Yeah.
message of truth that the Aquarius energy was trying to bring forward. So yeah, there is, and again, if we think about Pluto and its strong drive to transform, we
Mhm.
all have to see some pretty hard truths about ourselves in order to transform. If we
Right.
kind of have our blinders on and we're like, I'm pretty good compared to most people. That's not how you grow. That's not how any of
Mhm.
us grow. So a
No.
lot of a lot of Pluto and Aquarius, thinking about Aquarius as that prioritizing truth and Pluto as that you are going to transform, is facing
Mhm.
those really hard truths about ourselves. And in some
Mhm.
cases realizing I'm not as great a person as I thought I was. I have these underlying motivations or desires or, revenge tendencies or whatever that might look like.
Right.
Or maybe we look up an ex on Facebook and we're like, oh, they seem to be struggling. I'm okay with that.
Right.
But it's
Right.
these kind of
Mm.
things where, we may feel like we want to think of ourselves as very good, enlightened people. But
Mhm.
as we embrace Pluto and Aquarius, we have to face those hard truths. And again, this is how we grow. This is such an opportunity, but facing those hard truths is very painful.
It's one of my biggest lessons I've learned was there are people in therapy because I traumatized them. Like
Yeah.
that's a truth. That's a fact in my life. And I never did it intentionally. But man, oof,
Yeah.
sit with that one for a minute. Like these, like my children or my mom or my brother or my aunt or my uncle, like people like that are in therapy because I did something. I mean, I think I'm a pretty decent person, but when you sit with yourself in that, then you really have to look at it and go, was that situational? Was it me? Okay, if it was me, is that me all the time? Again, was that me situational? Like, there are some things that will kind of come up and
Yeah.
they're going to hurt. And I like to, one of my personality types is I like to warn and I like to be like, be prepared because I was not. And when this happened, I was like, so it is really very uncomfortable. I mean, it's not just an inconvenient truth, it is an extremely uncomfortable truth when you realize, because I mean, we all kind of say it kind of flippantly. Oh, I'm sure I traumatized somebody. But when somebody comes to you and they're like, this traumatized me, and this is the result of that, guys, it hits in a whole different way.
Mm,
And that might be what some of this comes up. So anyway, I
mm.
wanted to share that thought too. I felt like I needed to
Yeah, and that
share.
is so resonant for this energy, Christy. And,
Mhm.
again, so full of opportunity here, but, facing some difficult truths about ourselves in the process.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this is Mercury going from Capricorn to Aquarius on January 27th. Then the following day, January 28th, there's a new moon at 9 degrees of Aquarius, and it's trining Jupiter in Gemini.
Mm.
It has been a while, friends, since we have had a moon, what's called a lunation, either a full moon or a new moon, that has had a positive aspect with another planet. Usually it's like, oh, it's square Mars, it's conjunct Uranus, some kind of tricky energy to work with. Um, but the trine is a really supportive energy. Jupiter is a really supportive energy. Jupiter is
Mhm.
retrograde right now. So there is a little bit of a sense of Jupiter is going to bring goodness to this new moon, but it's probably going to be delayed by a little bit. So I would say don't look for Jupiter's gifts and benefic rays on the 28th. There will probably be a little bit of a delay with Jupiter retrograde.
Mhm.
But there's going to be kind of a, as we're facing these hard truths, as we're kind of, maybe flinching a little bit from some realities, um,
Mhm.
Jupiter is going to come along and help heal those wounds and help us say, okay, you know what? Like you did what you could in the situation you were in,
Right.
learning from it, you're moving forward. So Jupiter is going to bring some of that optimism rather than staying stuck in the I'm a horrible person and I'm going to be a horrible person forever. Jupiter is going
Right.
to come along and kind of take our hand and lift us out of our little uh cavern of pity and kind of say, you know what, we're moving forward. We're
Right.
gonna we're gonna use this to help our souls be better, to help our communities and our world be better. We can't change the past, we can change the future. And so there
Mhm.
is, and new moons really represent the beginning of a cycle each month. And so with this new moon in Aquarius trining Jupiter, it's like, okay, this is the beginning of a cycle to do things different, to make some real
Right.
changes based on what we're seeing. And of course, we can't make sweeping changes, in
Mhm.
ourselves overnight, but we can start on that
Mhm.
path. We can identify what we want to change and start taking steps forward. And I loved what you were talking about with Simon Sinek, and like you don't have to respond immediately. Sometimes even creating a little bit of a delay so you aren't
Mhm.
responding immediately gives you time to say, "Oh, is that really how I want to respond? Maybe second
Yeah.
thoughts are best, and there's a better way I could get my message across." But this new moon is a wonderful time. Not every new and full moon over the last 6 months I have really wanted to do very much with, because they have been some trickier friction filled they have been
Yeah.
associated with planets with more friction, tricky energy. But this really does feel like one, sit with this new moon. If you have
Mhm.
an opportunity on the 28th to just meditate, maybe listen to some music, take a long shower or bath, and just like feel the renewal of a new
Mhm.
cycle, new opportunities, whatever it is we have each noticed about ourselves that isn't great.
Mhm.
This is the start to a new journey. And yeah, I feel like this new moon is just going to be a beautiful opportunity for all of us to feel that sense of, I'm going to learn from the past. I'm not going to repeat the past.
Right, right, right. Very beautiful to have that insight.
Yes, especially coming after Sun hitting Pluto, Mercury hitting Pluto, and we're like, oh my gosh. And then, yeah, Jupiter is going to be like, but good can come from this.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and then the following day on the 29th, Uranus, which has been retrograde for a while, is going to go direct. And it is going to stay moving forward, moving direct until it enters Gemini in July. And this will be the first time that Uranus has been in Gemini for about 84 years. So
Oh,
none of us alive have seen Uranus. Well, most of us. If you are older than 84, you have seen this. But most of us have not seen Uranus in Gemini before. And so there is going to be Uranus now has their sights set on Gemini. There won't be any more retrograding and moving backward until they are in Gemini. For those keeping track, Gemini is an air sign. As Jupiter, or I'm sorry, as Uranus does enter Gemini in July, it's going to instantly hit a trine with Pluto in Aquarius. We'll talk about that when we get to July, because that will be its own interesting energy. But we'll start feeling this energy of Uranus moving away from Taurus, where it is currently, towards Gemini. And again, this is more of that energy of we are moving towards the future. We are moving we are moving society forward. We are moving technology forward. All of the air signs, are really associated with that forward, forward, forward. And this is such a human thing, to always want to be making things better and moving them forward. Even within the animal kingdom, animals are still very focused on kind of the basics: food, procreation. They aren't trying to build societies that outlast them. They aren't trying to build legacies that outlast them. That's a very human thing to do. And that is very strongly associated with the air signs in astrology as a result. So as we have Uranus looking towards Gemini, Uranus is the disruptor, the rebeller, the planet that doesn't want to play by the current rules and wants to make their own rules. So starting right after that new moon, that rebirth kind of cycle, we have Uranus going direct, eyes set toward Gemini, and starting to look at what needs to be disrupted in order to accomplish this new moon cycle. So, Jupiter by itself, Jupiter trining that new moon, can give us the hope, like, hey, this can be better. I don't have to repeat the future. But Jupiter doesn't, it gives hope and optimism, but doesn't always give us like that, how do we do this? Uranus is going to say, I bet a bunch of stuff needs to get broken and turned around and completely obliterated in order for this to happen. And I am here to do that for you. So this will be a time when we start to contemplate some pretty big changes. That might be like, my relationship isn't working for me. The state I'm living, the geographical location isn't working for me. My job isn't working for me. My whole career and domain expertise, not working for me. My current group of friends, not working for me. Like, we're going to be very aware of what is holding us back from changing those hard truths we saw kind of in the first week of Aquarius season. Like, now, whatever hard truths we are seeing now, By the 29th, as Uranus goes direct and looks toward Gemini, we're going to start to feel this urge to make big changes to support the ways we want to be different. So again, amazing opportunities. Buckle up a little bit, everyone. The thing I both love and find challenging with Uranus is it will burn everything down without asking what happens next. It will say, this doesn't work, get rid of it. This doesn't work, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And then there's like nothing left. And Uranus is kind of like, see you later. Uranus doesn't help rebuild. Uranus helps clear out what is not working. So, good to remember during this time. There are things we all need to completely obliterate from our lives, totally clear out. But if we give Uranus too free a rein, there might be nothing left at the end, so for all of us, we need to use some of that Aquarian sharp judgment and logic to say, okay, sure, if I take everything away and I am a Buddhist monk in the Himalayas, probably I can become more spiritual. But is that where I want to go? Maybe I can take away some things, but not everything. So again, lots of opportunities with Uranus moving direct and looking toward Gemini, but just being a little cautious because we may feel the need to just discard everything on our path towards soul development. And maybe some people here do want to wind up, as a Buddhist monk somewhere on top of a mountain. But for those who don't, just approach with a little bit of caution, discernment on which big changes you want to make.
I have a vision in my head of that just being like, and you're welcome.
That is Uranus.
Here I am. Stand out of my way, and you are welcome. Like that's what I'm envisioning in my head as you're saying.
Yes.
Oh, I think I know somebody like that.
Uranus and I, just because of my particular birth chart, Uranus and I have become very good friends over the past year. And Uranus is very much kind of that, you're welcome kind of energy. Like, I will, get rid of it all. And you're welcome for that, by the way. No, I'm not going to help you rebuild.
Right.
Yes,
and there you go.
Yeah. Uranus is direct in Taurus for me. You mean in your birth chart, Cosmic? If so, you're older than about 84, which I don't know, maybe not, maybe not. But we do have Uranus in Taurus right now, currently retrograde, soon to be direct and looking towards Gemini. So exciting times ahead as we all become a little more acquainted with Uranus, and we will become even more acquainted with Uranus after it enters Gemini later this year.
Right.
At the very end of the month, on January 31st, Venus moves on top of Neptune in Pisces. So Venus is exalted in Pisces. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So we've got two planets really strong in Pisces on top of each other. So much. Yeah, that's perfect, Cosmic. Yeah, so then you are literally having your Uranus return now. No?
She's not 79.
Oh, well,
she's not 79. She's being sassy.
In their late 70s or early 80s is having their Uranus return. We appreciate your sassiness, Cosmic. Um, and you know, for anyone who is having their Uranus return right now, I actually would be very interested to speak with you because Uranus in Gemini, which is where Uranus is going next, none of us, most of us alive now, have not experienced that before. And this is some very different energy than Uranus and Taurus. So this will be new ground for a lot of us. But with Venus conjoining Neptune in Pisces, there's just so much potential for dreaming and thinking bigger and thinking about not just what we can accomplish, but what we can accomplish together. And so this is simultaneously going to continue the themes of Venus in Pisces of, creativity and bringing our, authentic gifts to the world. But we'll be thinking bigger around, how do I bring other people along with this, such that our individual gifts come together to create something bigger. Like one thing I'm thinking about, Christy, is like the music that you and Ben have been putting together, where you are providing the lyrics and Ben is working on the music part. And it's sort of bigger with the two of you collaborating than it would be if either one of you was working individually. And it's that kind of energy of just, what can we do together? So it's really beautiful, creative, expressive, but not just as a solo figure, creative and expressive as a group where we are all leveraging each other's beautiful strengths and skills. So right around that end of the month, January 31st, lots of great collaborative, creative energy.
Oh, I love that.
Synergistic. Yes, Ben, I love that. Oh, cosmic, born in 79. There we go. Not actually 79.
I was gonna say, if she is like 80, I am over 80, and I do not want to be over 80 because I know I'm older than her.
Oh, okay. And then shortly after that, because Neptune is towards the very end of Pisces, Venus moves right over Neptune. And then by February 3rd, Venus moves into Aries. Venus is not exalted in Aries the way it is in Pisces. But honestly, I love the Venus and Aries time period each year. There's something very, very social. It's a more extroverted Venus. If we're normally shy and introverted and we need all of our alone time, Venus and Aries is more like, let's go out and party. Like, let's get together and do something. If we normally work alone, we may feel like, yeah, come along, work on this with me. And so I think coming on the heels of the Venus-Neptune conjunction around, increased creativity and collaboration with others, I think the Venus in Aries is going to continue some of that energy. Again, where, if we need a lot of alone time, we'll feel a little bit more like, let me get out there, meet people, go to new places, experience new environments, and that in turn will kind of energize us, help us to be more artistic as we're kind of getting out of any stagnant, stuck ways and just seeing, feeling inspired, to write poetry, songs, YouTube content. It's just as we start looking outward with Venus and Aries, we'll just find ourselves more inspired and energized. So I think that's going to be a really beautiful time.
Yay! I love that. More energy, more inspiration.
More inspiration. I love Venus and Aries each year, even though technically, it's probably worth calling this out. Technically, Venus is in its detriment in Aries because Venus rules Libra, which is exactly opposite Aries. So technically, Venus is not in a strong place in Aries. But I think sometimes Venus by itself is a little passive, a little, like there's so much softness around the edges that it kind of loses its defined shape.
Yeah.
Whereas with Venus in a sign like Aries, it's sharper, it's more defined, it's more active.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm.
Venus in Libra may think of a poem, but it might just sort of stay in the ether of the mind. Whereas Venus in Aries will be like, let me get that poem onto paper. And so there's a
Right.
little bit more of a go get it energy with Venus and Aries that I really appreciate.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Also, on February 3rd, Jupiter goes direct in Gemini. And we talked about how retrograde Jupiter trined our new moon on January 28th. So as Jupiter is trining that new moon, it is retrograde, but it is close to moving direct. And so by February 3rd, it is moving direct. That means no outer planets will be retrograde starting February 3rd. Right? So Pluto is direct and Uranus will be direct, Neptune, Saturn, and then Jupiter. The only
Right.
planet still retrograde is our dear old friend Mars, still retrograde since December with the longest retrograde cycle of any of the planets. So we're
Mhm.
still waiting on that one, but it is coming. It will go direct next month during Pisces season. We'll talk about it. We're getting close.
Right.
And then we'll all have
Right.
to have
Right.
like a we survived Mars retrograde party.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but it really there is a shift. So much of the end of 2024 through this early part of January has
Mhm.
just felt like it's hard to get things moving. Everything has
Yes.
felt a little bit stuck, a little bit stagnant. Part of that
Mhm.
is Mars retrograde, which again is not going away, but all of the outer planets were retrograde too
Mhm.
for a lot of that time. And when you have these
Mhm.
big energies moving backwards, it's really hard to
Mhm.
kind of galvanize things to move forwards. So with Jupiter
Right.
going direct in Gemini, and then Uranus went direct just 4 days prior to that,
Mhm.
we're starting to get like, okay, we can start building up some momentum. And then that's going to even continue once Mars is no longer retrograde next month.
Right. I'm ready for that one. We need to do a big celebration YouTube party. Everybody bring, snacks and a drink, and I don't know.
Yeah. It would
That
be
has been tough.
Yeah, the Mars retrograde, this one, Mars retrogrades always hit me personally hard. I
Mhm.
have a very tricky relationship with Mars.
Mhm.
I love Mars, but it is not, it's like it's kind in the long-term sense, but never kind in the
Right.
short-term sense. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I think we're all ready for a little direct Mars motion. So it's coming, everybody. Hang in there. Hang in there. Then on February 8th, Mercury moves on top of the sun in Aquarius. That means that a retrograde is coming up because Mercury is going to move over the sun and then it's going to turn around and start moving back toward the sun. So Mercury never gets very far away from the sun. So,
Mhm.
this is kind of our little early warning. Mercury is not retrograde yet, but it's coming up. And we're going to talk about that next month too. But when Mercury conjoins the sun, there's kind of a um, more of a focus on our words, our communication, what we portray to the world. It feels more important for that to be authentic to ourselves. So it's very hard to pretend when Mercury is on
Mm.
top of the sun and kind of put on that mask for the outside world. And that's especially
Mhm.
true with the sun and Mercury in Aquarius, which we already talked about. That's kind of a truth prioritizing sign. So
Right.
we're kind of getting a double dose of truth here. So I would say, on the 8th, if there are people you don't want to be brutally honest with, maybe avoid those people. around the 8th, because you may feel the urge to be, pretty brutally honest, in a way that may or may not be helpful. Sometimes brutal honesty is helpful. Again, this is where it's important to use our Aquarius discernment, to decide whether it's helpful or not.
Just have that message. I'm sorry, I cannot talk to you for the next 5 days. I will get back to you on day 10.
There you go.
Don't take it personal.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember what day of the week the 8th is. Yeah, and February 8th is a Saturday, which is traditionally Saturn's day. So hopefully Saturn will give us a little perspective, a little long-term thinking, so we don't, inadvertently burn too many bridges with our intense truthfulness on the 8th.
So nobody reach out to me on the 8th. No, I'm kidding.
We might want your brutal honesty, Christy. We genuinely might want it.
You might. Well, and this is the thing. If I ever ask you, are you sure you really want me to answer that? Like, maybe think twice. I'm giving you an out at that point. But if you say yes, hang on.
That's a very beautiful Aquarian thing to do. It's like, are you sure you want the truth? Yeah, this is like your opportunity to exit, to take the off ramp before you wind up somewhere else.
Right. You get one shot.
Yes, I love that. I keep thinking of, there are these tolled highways near my house, and there are big signs that say, this is the last exit before the toll. And it just kind of feels like, yeah, this is your one last chance to exit before you get the pure, unfiltered truth.
I feel like it's Jack Nicholson, like, you can't handle the truth, and then Tom Hanks, there's no crying in baseball. You asked for it, now you don't get to cry.
Yes, there is some of that. And, and I think the other cool part of that is, if there are areas where you want some direct, unfiltered truth, the 8th is a really good time to reach out to maybe your Aquarius friends, who will give you that raw, unfiltered truth. So, if you do feel like, I really don't know how I come across, I don't know if I'm balancing these things appropriately, I don't know how I'm being perceived by friends or my community, this is a time when you could get some pretty real feedback on that. So
Right.
Maybe
I'll take
not everybody.
appointments.
I love it.
Okay. I'm on a roll today. I don't know why.
Because the sun is in Aquarius. This is your season. You're like warming up.
I'm here. It's all about me, baby. No,
Okay. So this is all on the 8th. Also on the 8th, Mars, which is retrograde in Cancer, is going to trine Saturn in Pisces. So as we have this day of unfiltered truth with Mercury conjoining the sun in Aquarius, Mars is trining Saturn. Mars is not very happy in Cancer. It is in its fall in Cancer. Saturn is not very happy in Pisces. Pisces is a little bit too watery and emotional for logical, long-term thinking, disciplined Saturn. So both of these planets are already struggling a little bit on their own. And then, on the 8th, they're also going to struggle together. So, it's going to be, maybe like, for example, we might be trying to think long and plan long-term, very Saturn. But then we can't really figure out what to do to take the next step to move towards that plan, which is Mars. But yeah, there's going to be almost a sense of like, I remember I heard one astrologer talk about it. I think this was Austin Coppock, who talked about, Saturn and Mars together. Like, Saturn is kind of pressing the brake on a car and Mars is pressing the gas. And when you're trying to kind of press the gas and the brake at the same time, it's a little bit like, okay, what are we doing here? This is a little jarring. Stop, go, stop, go. And so, yeah, I feel like they're trying to work together, and you do need the brake and the gas pedal in a car. They do need to work together, but
Right?
they're going to kind of struggle a little bit to find a smooth rhythm. If you're in a car with a manual transmission, this is going to feel a little bit like ka-chunking through your gears, not like that nice smooth shifting. So yeah, there'll be a little, some bumps in the road on the 8th. Then on the 11th, we have a full moon in Leo. While Mercury is still, on top of the sun, conjunct the sun. And this full moon is going to be exactly square Aquarius. I almost don't know what to say about this full moon other than our authenticity and truth are going to come out. They're probably going to come out in really unexpected ways, in unexpected circumstances. Other people's truths will also be coming out. So we kind of have to navigate our own truths and other people's truths. And sort of, with Leo wants to be in the spotlight. And so this full moon in Leo, we each sort of want to be the center of our own solar system. But it's hard to interact in the world if we all are simultaneously trying to be the center of our own solar system. So there's probably going to be like some, how do we be authentic without inadvertently stamping all over other people? And what does that give and take look like? And then, because this is square Uranus, there is going to be some element of seeing ourselves in unexpected ways and others in unexpected ways. So this might look like, maybe we do inadvertently stamp all over on top of someone without maybe even realizing it. And then, we kind of realize that maybe they call us out on it. And, again, our perspective is kind of shifting on who we are. And, or likewise, maybe there's like, someone we know, an acquaintance, a friend, a coworker, and, we see them in a totally new way. And we're like, they always only want to talk about themselves. They actually are never interested in me. And so there's just going to be kind of this back and forth interplay of, who am I? Who are the people near me? How do we all appropriately show our authentic selves while making space for other people and their authentic selves? So there's just going to be a little of like, the image I kind of get is like we're all on a crowded subway car and we're all kind of jockeying to have our own little bit of space and feel comfortable so that our elbow is not in somebody else's ribs and their elbow is not in our ribs. But it kind of requires some collective jostling for all of us to get to a place where we're reasonably comfortable. So I think this full moon is going to look like that.
Right.
I think in the positive sense, though, the full moon in Leo always helps us be more ourselves. And that is important. So if we have spent way too much time with other people's elbows in our ribs so as not to make them uncomfortable on the subway, this will be a full moon where we're like, I deserve to not have elbows in my ribs too. And so maybe it causes a little bit of discomfort as we kind of shift and then everyone else has to kind of shift, but that was an appropriate shift. That was a shift that needed to happen. So we're kind of seeing this theme with the whole month of adjustments that need to happen for the sake of truth. If something is just truly unfair, truly not correct, this is a time to notice it and start making corrections.
And, how powerful is that, to be able to not only notice it, but to make corrections about it.
Yes. And again, Uranus is always there to help us make corrections. If there's something existing in It's just like, you
Right.
want me to help you tear that down and do something different? Yeah, I'll help you bring that down. So, yes, there's so much strong energy towards not just seeing the adjustments that need to be made this month, but also making them.
Right. Nice. Oh, shoot.
Oh, I thought maybe we had an Edgar appearance. No?
Oh, no. He's so funny. He has figured out that his favorite place to sleep is on the steering wheel because it's
Oh,
warm. So he gets up on the steering wheel and he's black and the steering wheel's black. So it just looks like the steering
fuzzy
wheel
cover.
has like this deformity until he like pops up his head and he kind of like looks
Oh,
around.
precious Edgar.
And he has been so like he has really been testing Shitty Kitty lately. And I'm like, dude, you probably don't want to test her. Like she's kind of a bad, like she's a and he's just did I freeze? He's been testing her. So the other day she didn't even move, y'all. She just like raised up her head and went whoosh, and he went pew. I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, I told you, he's starting to learn. But yeah, he's been parkour kitty lately. So he runs around, he like slides across the floor through the whole length of the RV, like literally climbs the walls, jumps all over everything, and then he's just like a kid. Next thing you know, you look over and he's like he's
Oh,
done.
precious Edgar. But isn't it amazing that
Yeah,
even
he's
the
so cute.
cat's relationship right now is sort of exhibiting these Aquarius season themes as they're kind of,
Right.
pushing, jostling, Shitty Kitty is like,
Right.
I demand to be me. And Edgar's like, well, I want to be me too. And what if me being me encroaches on you? And, again, it's
Right.
like these themes of, like
Yeah.
relationship power dynamics and the transformation that might need to come with
Mm-hmm.
that. And yeah, our animals are not immune to it. They feel all of these same, energies as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Edgar is the sassiest one of them all. Mikey just kind of sleeps. Shitty Kitty just sleeps. Sweetie and Edgar are like the ones that are like, okay, let's go. They're like the antagonizers. They're like, okay, let's go get it. Like the other day I walked in and Edgar was chewing on Mikey's tail. And you guys, I mean, he was wrapped around it. Like his ears were pinned back and he's just like, and Mikey's just looking at me like, what is this thing doing? Like, I don't think it actually hurt him because if it did, Mikey would just stand up and Edgar would fall off. But he was just looking like, I don't even understand what's happening right now.
Yes.
I'm like, oh boy.
They're figuring it out, they're kind of working through it and figuring it out. And that's what we're all going to be doing
Yes. Well,
over this Aquarius season.
yes.
Okay.
Well, and I think it's good to have that insight.
Know what's coming. Yeah, watch your animals, everybody. Whatever they're doing,
Yes.
we may be doing the same thing on a human scale. They're giving us some early insight. And then on February
Right.
12th, so a day later, Mercury moves into Pisces. And yeah, there's kind of an energy here of Mercury in Pisces is not a clear communicator. If we talk about like Mercury in Aquarius prioritizes truth and probably clarity, Mercury in Pisces prioritizes feeling and prioritize it. I think like many great poets, for example, were born with Mercury in Pisces because you're not trying to say things in the clearest way or the most truthful photographic way. You're trying to say things in a way to make people feel a certain way, to feel something. And Yeah,
Mhm.
so I think, this really kind of represents a shift if we think about, all of the energies, all of the creative Venusian, Venus related energies. Sorry, the sun is coming right through my window, right into my eyes. Um, this is really going to bring some fluidity to some of the creative energy. So if
Mhm.
we tended to be too blunt earlier this season, we're now going to start feeling like
Mhm.
more aware of people's feelings, more aware of the way things come across. Um, we will be our communication will move towards being more metaphorical rather than totally literal. So,
Mhm.
yeah, again, a lot of opportunities for
Uh-huh.
creativity and growth during this time, and maybe mending any relationships that struggled a little bit earlier with, Mercury and Aquarius conjunct the sun. But yeah, I think this is going to be
Yeah.
a good, I think Mercury and Aquarius really great for getting the truth out. But then Mercury in Pisces on the
Mhm.
12th, good to kind of, put some watery healing and fluidity and harmony instead of just
Mhm.
truth. So I think there's a lot of really beautiful
Right.
possibilities, um, as with Mercury's move into.
And February 12th is my birthday.
Is it really? Oh, that's so
That's my
perfect. I
birthday.
love it.
Yes,
I
yes,
love
that's
it.
my birthday.
Yes.
Yes. So, how great is that? I will be right back. I gotta go get something. Hold on. I got an animal.
Understood.
Give me
Go
just a
for
minute.
it. And then on the 17th, we have the sun moving into Pisces. So that will end our sun in Aquarius season. And that will, again, one thing we will experience. Oh, Edgar, we love you so much, sweetheart.
He was climbing the walls. I had to get him down. Look how big he's gotten,
So
guys. He's such a big little
precious.
guy.
Cannot.
He's 4 months old now. You were four
Just
months
love that
old.
little guy so
There you go.
much.
There you go. He was climbing the
He's
wall.
so
I had to
athletic,
get him off the wall.
acrobatic.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. There is nothing he can't climb, jump, slide across. You be the good guy.
So I was
You
just
be the
saying
good
that,
guy.
yeah, then on the 17th, the sun is going to move into Pisces. Our Aquarius season will be over for the year. And I think we will all feel that shift really strongly because, again, the sun is going to move away from being in the same sign as Pluto. So there will be kind of a lightness.
Uh,
Again, so much of Aquarius season this year is kind of facing some of our hard truths and, starting to make some needed changes,
mhm.
which is amazing energy. But then, with the sun moving into Pisces, there will be a little bit of like, okay, but, life doesn't have to be all hard truths all the time. There are some periods of fluidity and
Right.
beauty and harmony and kind of some self-compassion that we are doing the best we can, even when we fall short. And so I think we'll all on the 17th really
Mhm.
feel that shift of the sun into Pisces as kind of like, okay, we've been doing some hard work. And now it's time to kind of pat ourselves on the back a little bit,
Mhm.
appreciate the work we've done. It doesn't mean the work is over. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's important to kind of take those rest points to just kind of look back at what we have accomplished, appreciate all of the effort that we've put in. And then, even though this is into Pisces season, so we'll talk about this next
Yeah.
month, but 6 days later, Mars stations direct and we'll start moving forward again. Thank goodness. And then Mars retrograde will
Yay!
be over for the next 2 years since Mars only goes retrograde every 2 years.
Ah,
Cannot come quickly enough.
so glad. Oh man, I tell you, uh, Michael, he's been feeling it lately the past couple days, and he looked at me this morning and he goes, "No matter what happens," this was really sweet. He's like, "We've got each other, and our home, which is our RV,
Yeah.
is paid for. Beyond that, it's all okay. And I
Oh,
was like, oh, that's a good way to look at it. But can we keep the car? Because it's kind of cool.
oh.
It's like, you
I
would.
I do love that though, because I do
But
think so much of the energy of um, 2025 in general, and I do feel like Aquarius season sort of kicks some of
mhm,
this off as the sun moves on top of Pluto. But so much of the energy
mhm,
this year is about
mhm,
understanding what is most important to us. And, sort of those core things.
mhm,
And we talked earlier about how um, so much of the early part of Aquarius season will be about stripping out what is no longer needed, what is no
mhm.
longer helping us move forward, and what may even be hindering us in moving forward. And, as we kind of
Right.
peel some of that back and understand the core of who we are and what is most valuable to us, there is kind of a beautiful cohesion around, like I love that Michael basically said, we have each other, we have our home, what else do we need?
Yeah.
And so there is something
Uh-huh.
really beautiful about the
Right.
energy
Right.
of this Aquarius season, and that will kind of be a theme throughout the year of, yeah, what is most important to me? And if I
Mhm,
have that, do I need all of this other
mhm.
multitude of, little
Yeah.
things? So there will be a big,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
focusing in on those things most important to us. And I think for a lot
Mhm.
of us, probably starting with COVID all the way kind of rolling through 2024, it's been a little challenging and confusing to really think about what is me and what is
Mhm.
everything else and what is most important to me versus
Right.
what just happens to be in my life. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
so much of Aquarius season is going to kick off this time of clarity around what is most important
Right.
to me, which I think is going to feel a little bit
Right.
like a
Right.
touchstone and a grounding for a lot of us after a few,
Mhm.
years
Mhm.
with some more confusing energy.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and it's important to look at those bigger questions and to know that the people in our lives and the fur babies and everything are important, but so are the shoes.
I mean, we've all got our list, Christy. Maybe the shoes make it on the list.
So so are those Louis B shoes that I've been. Maybe this is the year. We never know. But no, you guys, if you would have seen me yesterday, you would have been like, "How is she so happy today?" It was just I felt the
Mm.
shift yesterday. I just felt it, and today I'm like, okay, you know what? Yes, we've got each other, we've got our house, and of course, I'm joking about
I don't know.
the
I mean, there's
shoes,
a lot happening in
but
Pisces this year, frankly, Christy. And, traditionally, Pisces rules the feet. So it might not be the worst year. It could be the
this
year.
is my
It could be
year.
the year.
This is my year. I will leave you this. So, I'm talking about Christian Louboutin
Oh, yeah.
shoes, right? The red bottom shoes. And so everybody's like, what are you going to do with those shoes? Because if you guys don't know, those are extremely expensive shoes and like so impractical for my lifestyle. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm wearing those and my yoga pants to the Walmart, to the Sprouts, wherever I go. I am wearing those shoes. I don't care. You will see me walking the dogs.
I mean,
So
this feels
I'm just
very
saying,
Venus and Aries. We talked about how Venus is going to be moving from
right,
Pisces, the sign of the feet, possibly shoes, into
right,
Aries. And Aries is,
right,
it's
right,
that
right.
outgoing nature mixed with kind of the Venus
Uh huh.
desire for comfort
Right.
and beauty. And I could totally see Venus and Aries as manifesting wearing really nice but impractical shoes to a Walmart. It's like I'm going out with my beautiful, whether it,
I'm there for it.
is conventional or not. Yeah, this is definitely, this Aquarius season is going to bring some unconventional stuff, especially with Uranus being so tied into that full moon that we have on the 11th of February. And, yeah,
Right.
I hope everybody has kind of seen that the energy this month, unlike what we've talked about a lot in previous months, this is going to look very bigger themes. This is not just, the energy of Monday or
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday or this weekend, but this is opening themes that
Right.
we're going to continue to revisit with Pluto and Aquarius over the next 20 years. So it is very much kind of an opening sequence. So wonderful to have your journal ready
Right.
and really, prepped to take advantage of this, um, and sort of know what's going to be coming over the next year and beyond.
Right. So what I am hearing is save my money, get the red shoes, wear the ridiculous red shoes with the yoga pants, and get in the Corvette and drive to the Walmart. And that embodies all of my weird Aquarius nature and Venus in Pisces, which is
It
about the
certainly
feet.
could.
So
That could be
there
one
you go.
manifestation of this energy, and I'm kind of loving that mental visual. And, I love how Ben called out too, just think how much easier it would be if Leo was always the center, because we talked about, like, all of us kind of wanting to
Right.
be the center of our own universe with the Leo full moon this month. And, that is
Right.
very resonant
Right.
too, of kind of, wear your amazing shoes to the Walmart. That is very Leo. I'm gonna exhibit my authentic truth,
Right.
which is I love these shoes. Also, I want to go to Walmart. Yeah, there is something extremely authentic about the energy this month, where all of us are going to be called to really be ourselves and to cut out things that just aren't us.
Right. I love that. And journal that down. And so that as you go through the year and you have those times, now I'm back to being serious, where you have those times where, you're maybe not feeling it or you're struggling a little bit, you can look back and you can be like, "Hey, this is what I found out about myself in February. This is who I am." And when you're like, is this really what I want to do? Because you might get some funny looks when you roll into the Walmart in $900 shoes and a pair of $14 yoga pants. You might get some looks, but you could be like, hey, this at the end of the day, it is who I am, and I'm just gonna own that, and I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm gonna be proud of who I am. And I think that is beautiful. I think that's a beautiful way to end this, like to just,
Yeah.
like see the beautifulness of who you are, and allow this time, although it's going to be a little difficult, to just help you find who you are even more so.
Oh,
I love that. I
yes.
love that.
And welcome,
Yes.
Donna and Makers,
Well,
who I
and
think came in recently. Definitely feel free to go back to the beginning. We
yes.
talked through the whole month if you're curious about the energies. I've got this sun right in my eyes.
Oh, yes. Yes, that sun. I know. I can
Yeah,
see
but
it's
I
in a bad
appreciate
place.
it. Usually in
So, on
Seattle, we
that
don't get
note,
it. So I
guys,
appreciate it.
right, right, take the sun when you can get the sun. So, on that note, guys, thank you so much for being here. Join me back here tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. for our morning tarot read. And as always, go conquer your world as only you can. We'll be here to help you light the way. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.